Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for coming and taking time out from your busy day. And could you come up and work the slides for me? So this is the third part of a series of whole person care rounds that I'm doing based on the teachings that come from the book, Search Inside Yourself, and the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, which is now a separate entity based in San Francisco. So Search Inside Yourself was a course that was developed at Google, actually, by a Singaporean engineer named Chade-Meng Tan. He had been a longtime practitioner of mindfulness, and he thought, gee, mindfulness could really help people at Google, Googlers as they're known, deal with the stress and demands of that workplace that potentially could help them be more creative, be more productive, have a greater sense of well-being. And so it soon became the most popular course at Google, and actually it is to this day, that when the courses are announced, they're filled up within minutes, and there is a long waiting list for the course. And so Meng, as he's known, actually left Google and developed the whole Leadership Institute based on the Search Inside Yourself philosophy and Search Inside Yourself teachings. And actually, I just got back last night from Search Inside Yourself teacher certification training. So that's where this material comes from. If you're interested at all, I would highly recommend this book. It is a very easy read, and it combines the topics of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and neuroscience. Like, why should you care about mindfulness? What is the science behind it? Next slide. So today I'm going to talk about finding a mindfulness practice. I'm going to try and make the case for all of you why you should give this a try. It's like, what's the point? Who has time for mindful meditation anyway? So, next slide. So I've talked about in the past how mindfulness helps you. It's been shown clinically to help with depression, anxiety, chronic pain, stress. I prescribe it to patients. I prescribe it to colleagues. I do it on the teams that I work in. But why should you do this, you as an individual? So I'm going to make the argument today based on something different, because maybe you're not depressed, maybe you're not anxious. So it's like, okay, I don't really need that. And it's this notion of being on autopilot. So the studies have shown that we spend as much as 50% of our waking hours on autopilot, not really paying attention to what we're doing, because there are tasks that we all do every day that are routine, that are repetitious, right? We all have them. And so, like for instance, how many of you recall any details about driving to work this morning? Good. One person, that's good. I'm sure more of you did, but really, you can drive to work if you've done it so many times without really thinking about it, without paying attention. So I'm going to make the case that you should think about moving from autopilot to being more aware. Why would you do that? Next slide. Okay, next slide, or next. So these are the characteristics of autopilot, and see how these sort of resonate with you. Next bullet. Attention is in the past or the future. You're thinking about stuff that happened this morning, You're thinking about stuff you have to do this afternoon, rather being right here, right now, with what Glenn is saying. Next slide, next bullet. You're distracted. So easy to do. There's so much going on in the world, in our worlds these days. You know, I mean, everybody who carries a cell phone, I mean, that is a monument to distraction, right? Next bullet. You become more reactive or judgmental because you've seen this situation before and you just automatically react. Those of you that are married know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, and the last bullet. So we act based on habits, patterns, and assumptions without really considering that maybe the facts are changed, maybe the assumptions that we have about things are not applicable in this case. So think about something that, I'll kind of open it up here. Who can think of something where you acted in one of these 4 ways based on autopilot? Maybe an example even today, this morning. Yes, please.
I went straight to the cafeteria, forgetting that we were going to have lunch here.
Uh-huh.
And I start getting my food. And then
Yeah.
I stopped myself. Oh, but I couldn't put my food back.
Yeah.
So I shoved a little bit of salad down my throat. And then a colleague came, and I wasn't listening to him.
Yeah.
Because I kept looking at the clock and thinking I could run over.
Yeah. Great example. Yeah, Mike.
I commute daily from Dana Point, as you know. And last Thursday, I left my computer at my house and realized that I left it there when I was pulling in the parking lot with Glasgow. And so I had to go back home.
You drove all the way back to Dana Point to get your computer. Wow.
That was that described.
Yeah, no. All right, thanks. Next slide. So how do we get off autopilot? Next slide. It's pretty simple. Be present. Just be present. All right, so I'm going to lead you through a meditation now. Next slide. On focused attention practice. Sort of a longer version of what we just did to be present for this meeting. So there are many different meditations out there, and so I'm going to be going through some of them through the course of my teachings. But today we're going to do this focused attention practice, which is the classic meditation where you focus on your breathing. There are other classic meditations based on a body scan where you feel like your body in different parts of your body, and that's more about sort of connections with emotions. There's another classic one that I love, which is loving kindness and just like me. So those are meditations that I've led in the past. But today we're going to do this one about focused attention, being fully present in this moment right now. All right. So we're going to start by finding a posture that feels both relaxed and alert. Have your feet firmly on the floor, your hands on your thighs or your lap. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open, looking downward with a soft focus. Allow the spine to lift and the shoulders to relax. Some people have talked about sitting like a majestic mountain, thinking about your favorite mountain and pretend to be that mountain when you sit. Majestic, dignified, and awe-inspiring. Begin by connecting with your intention in doing this practice. You may want to develop healthier ways to relate to stress. You may want to be more focused and productive, or be a more skillful leader. Or you may not have any clear intention. You may just be interested in learning more about meditation practice or learning more about yourself. Now bring your attention to your breath. You may notice a movement of the abdomen or the chest, or the sensation of air passing at the tip of the nose, or a sensation in the throat, or a sense of the whole body breathing. Wherever the sensation is most vivid for you, allow your attention to rest there. For the rest of this practice, think of this sensation as your anchor point, your anchor breath. Whenever the mind wanders, bring it back to this feeling of breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. You may explore counting each exhale from 1 to 10. If you notice your mind wander, come back to 1. When you get to 10, go back to 1. Can you be curious and kind with yourself, even as your mind wanders, even as you bring your attention back to your breath? If your attention wanders, as soon as you notice, simply return to this awareness of the breath. Kindly, gently. Allow the breath to be kind of a home base or anchor for awareness. Thoughts are coming, thoughts are going. No need to push away or chase after. If attention wanders, simply returning, right here, right now. Now let's sit quietly for 2 minutes, making just the right amount of effort to follow the breath. Or just sit here, being aware of whatever arises for you. Okay, slowly, gently open your eyes fully, returning awareness to the room, maybe even stretching in any way you would like. And I'll invite you now to think about not so much as this practice being over, but what is it like to continue to feel anchored in the present moment as we move into some conversation about this practice. So, what did you notice? What did that feel like? So this mic is not for audio, it's for the recording.
For me, I could only get to about 3, and then I'd have to start over again. There were only a couple times where I got to 8, but really, I have a lot of work to do.
Thanks. Sounds pretty simple, but it's not that easy to stay focused for 10 breaths. I have the same problem. Other thoughts? Yeah, Yersinia.
My mind kept going back
hold
to.
it.
For me, my mind kept going back to, okay, what do I have to do next? Oh, let's breathe again. Let's breathe again. Oh, what am I doing this afternoon? So I just kept putting myself back to the breathing mode.
Okay. So who felt it was like interminably long? Besides Dre. So say more about that, Dre. Why was it so long for you?
Yeah, it just felt like the 2 minutes. I just kept thinking, is it still not 2 minutes? How is it not 2 minutes? And I opened my eye at one time. I was like, okay, he has the gong. But like, I just feel very, I guess, frazzled this morning. It was a really busy morning, and I could feel that, having a hard time settling in.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for your honesty. This is hard. All of you have really hard jobs. I know that without even knowing what all of you do, just because you work here in this medical center. And it's stressful, and there's so much going on, and all of us have too much to do. Other comments or reflections?
I felt heavy. I felt like I usually don't sit still that long, and I felt like my body was really heavy, but in a good way. Like I wasn't
floating. More about heaviness. Was that helpful? Not helpful?
It felt very peaceful. It felt like there was a purpose to being heavy. You know, like kind of rooted almost. Like I never put both my feet on the ground ever, too. So, but I mean, I just felt very relaxed, peaceful. But yeah. I felt my body heavy. Maybe it was just relaxing.
So one of the things is when these feelings come up, it's an opportunity to think about where's that heaviness coming from? Why do I feel heavy? And that's what this kind of practice opens up. It's like maybe there's something weighing on you, literally, that's causing this feeling of heaviness. Yep.
Part of the busyness for me too, and like the mind racing, is because I know there's things that are hard and I'm purposefully trying to remain unaware of them. So like to spontaneously like have to just sort of sit and be there, it's something that I recognize, I think from my perspective as a chaplain with any sort of personal or spiritual discipline, is like a lifelong pursuit to remain in the present every day as a way of being. Because there's long stretches of time that are very stressful where the things that I need to do to take care of myself and be aware of what's going on for me, I know that it's hard to find time to do them. And so there's a lot of things that it's like, all right, like I got to compartmentalize this over here. So figuring out, okay, like how can I do this every single day in a way that can help me mature and be more peaceful presence to my patients and our team when we're working.
Great, perfect segue. Next slide. one thing I will say before I talk about the 3 breaths micro practice is that this practice is not about relaxing. This practice is about becoming more aware, like really aware of the present moment. I mean, it is relaxing, of course, when you're kind of sitting and it's quiet and it's peaceful, but it's not primarily a relaxation exercise. It's about actually being more aware, more in tune with your feelings, your emotions, your body, your breath. Okay, so Stephanie raises a really good point. So that meditation that we just did was 6 minutes. Okay, so that seemed really long for, I'm sure, many of you, even if you won't admit it. So it's hard, right? It's hard to fit in. You would think 6 minutes or 5 minutes is not such a big demand, but it is, because we're all so busy. So what I'm trying to do with this work is try to make it practical. What can I do when I leave this room before I see the next patient or the next colleague, especially one who triggers you into some reaction, like stress reaction or anger or frustration or whatever. So this is something that you can do that I've done with my teams called the 3 breaths micro practice. Okay, so what I want you to do now is try this out. And I want you to think of a kind of a stressful situation at work, one that's typical for you or one maybe you just had this morning. Something that kind of triggers some strong emotions in you that it's not like the worst thing that ever happened to you, but just, mildly or moderately unpleasant. Okay, so close your eyes and visualize that incident. Okay, so the next bullet is, you don't have to open your eyes, I'll just read you the bullets. Take 1 deep breath and just pay attention to that breath, just like we were doing before. Take 1 breath, paying complete attention to that breath. Okay, now take a 2nd breath and let your body relax. Let your body relax. Now take a 3rd deep breath and decide what's most important now. What should I do now? Okay, come back, open your eyes. So, we may not have time for 5 or 6 minutes of meditation, but you can't tell me you don't have time for 3 breaths. So this is a 3-breath micro practice, so-called. So something that any of us can do in pretty much any situation. So my team and I, sometimes when we're walking into a patient's home for making a home visit, we just pause outside and we take 3 breaths. That helps us bring us to that moment right there in front of that house so we can focus on that patient and that family. Pretty simple. Something that you can try out this afternoon. Okay, next slide. So another type of mindfulness practice is journaling. So what I'm going to do is give you different choices on a menu, and then hopefully one of these choices resonates with you and you might be willing to give it a try. So we're going to do some brief journaling here just so you feel what it's like. So everybody get a paper and pencil or pen. We had some paper at the back table Does anybody need a piece of paper or a pen or a pen? So journaling is a type of meditation and type of mindfulness practice. It's not a meditation, it's a type of mindfulness practice that, again, helps you become more self-aware. When you have to write something down, you have to think about, well, how do I really feel about this? And then you commit the words to paper. Okay, does everybody have a piece of paper and something to write with? Okay, good. All right, so what we're going to do is some brief journaling, and we're going to do, I'm going to give you some prompts, and you're going to write just kind of free flow. Don't worry about being eloquent. Don't worry about being profound. Don't worry about punctuation. Just kind of let stuff flow out of your pen. Just keep writing. And even if you don't know what to write, just write, I don't know what to write. Just kind of like keep the pen moving. And we're going to do each prompt for 2 minutes. So it's not going to be long, not going to be tortuous, but just some things to kind of give you the flavor of what journaling could be like. That it doesn't have to be a long time. You don't have to sit and journal for like 30 minutes every night. It could be this brief. We're going to do 2 minutes on each prompt, and I'm going to time them. Okay, Anne, can you click it? The first prompt is, things that annoy me are ... Things that annoy me are ... .30 seconds more. Okay. I know what Anne was writing. Doctors that give me their slides on the morning of their talk. The next slide, or next prompt is, my challenges are. Go ahead. My challenges are. Okay, 30 seconds left. Okay, the third prompt is, things that bring me alive are. Things that bring me alive are. Thirty seconds left. Okay, and the final prompt is, when I am at my best, I. When I am at my best, I. Thirty seconds. right. All right. Next slide. So what we're going to do now is mindful listening. Mindful listening. Okay, I want you to all stand up. And I want you to find a partner that you don't know. Okay, and you can either stand up or you can sit down. But find somebody you don't know. All right, who needs a partner? Oh, okay, perfect. Okay. Great. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. All right, next. Okay, so we all have our dyads, and so what this is a mindful listening exercise. And so person A, you can decide who's going to be A and who's going to be B. So person A is going to talk for 3 minutes straight. No interruptions. Person B cannot talk. Person B can nod, can smile, can acknowledge, but no talking. So it's just listening. And then we're going to go for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to ring the bell, and then person B is going to talk for 3 minutes, uninterrupted. And then the last one is that we're going to have a back and forth conversation about how that was. Okay? Any questions before I give you the prompts about what you're going to talk about? Any questions about the format?
Standing or sitting?
What's that? You can do either sitting or standing, whatever feels comfortable. Okay, and the prompt is going to be to talk about what it is that we just did. You can talk about the attention focus meditation that we just did. You can talk about the journaling that we just did. Sort of what came up for you during those exercises? You know, what did you notice? What things did you observe about yourself? What things you hated about it? You can talk about whatever you want, whatever aspect of the practice, but just talk about what it is that came up for you during those two practices. And you can just focus on one or the other, whichever one you seem to connect with more. Or if you don't want to talk about that, you could talk about anything else you want. So I'm making this very easy for you. And if you run out of things to say, you just remain quiet until you think of something else. But the other person is still not allowed to talk, even if the person who's talking runs out of things to say. Okay, is everybody clear on the instructions? All right, go ahead and start. Person A. 30 seconds more. Okay, let's all stop. Let's stop. Person B, thank person A for sharing. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Okay, and now person B starts. Please go. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
For some reason, this got off my schedule on my phone.
Oh.
And I was with a patient, and I'm like, I'm nothing to do. I'm still here. And then I went to my computer, and I see this alarm, and I was like,
Okay.
so I was so sorry.
That's okay.
But I have to do the fun ritual.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I wanted to come to the debrief. I wouldn't have been any good anyhow.
Okay.
But I was part of this book review. So I don't know what happened with my phone.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thirty seconds. All right, let's pause. Thank your partner for sharing. Take a deep breath. In and out. And now you can talk back and forth about what that was like for you for just 2 minutes. Go ahead. 30 seconds more. Okay, let's pause, thank each other. Okay, take a deep breath and come back to your seats. Okay. All right, how was that? What came up for you folks? What did you notice?
I noticed that my partner took the conversation in a different direction than it possibly would have gone if I had done my normal, not interruption, but participation. If I had said things about the first topic, probably wouldn't have gone to the second or third topic.
Yeah.
And it was a gift to watch and listen.
Yeah, things change when you're quiet. All right, thank you for sharing that, Claudette. Other things, yes, Amber.
One of the things that my partner and I talked about is we had a hard time discussing the I, like what challenges me and I am at my best when. So it was very difficult for her to say what challenges me and for me to actually write the word I. And then we just kind of came to the conclusion, both being nurses, the majority of our time spent at work is caring for others.
So you don't think about I so much?
No. And one of the things that my partner said is that you, Glenn, sorry, like this whole lecture, this whole practice is about me, like yourself, and to focus on yourself so you can care for others.
Great, thank you for sharing that. That's a great insight. All right, other thoughts? Drummond, you always have something to say.
I do, don't I? Well, one of the things that I realized was when I was writing the things down, I had an easier time talking about what enlivens me than what challenges me. And then, to Mary Ann's point, when we got to the point of writing down what challenges us, in our heads they're so profound and manifest, but when you write them down, they're brief and maybe not all that grim.
Great. I will just remind everybody that what we share stays in here, that we need to be very respectful of our colleagues, and this is riskier behavior, riskier learning. I shouldn't say behavior, it's riskier learning that when you share things that are personal. And so please be respectful of your colleagues that you talk to, that shared things with you, that it's not to be repeated outside this room, and that you're not allowed to talk about it unless they bring it up to you. All right, thanks. Yes.
Just a few things. I noticed that I was telling my partner, Savita, that when you invite us to do the meditation, I couldn't get past, but I lead others in meditation, you know? And then I was thinking, but I already meditate at home. Like I kept like pushing it off, or like I didn't want to enter it. And then once I entered it in this context, just for me here at work, then I was like, man, I should do this more often at work, you know? That's one thing. And then I guess it's related to the next, which was I was sharing that I was about to, I don't think I got there, that I'm used to listening to people because I'm a chaplain. And it was so refreshing to have someone listen to me without, without interrupting me. And the way I usually talk with friends, I'm going to blame it on how I was raised and culture and everything. You know, there's a lot of like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, you know, other cultures say I'm very intense, but I'm like, that's just how we are. And then I realized, man, I need to start seeing a spiritual director or, you know, and then I also feel like it's selfish, but I know it's not, because I always tell people all day long to take care of themselves.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that. That was lovely. Anybody else in the back? Oh, go ahead. No.
I was going to say that this is the least favorite activity of being quiet and listening. And the first 2 classes I came to, they were very painful to me. It's like I want to interfere. It's not that it's boring. I just want to interfere and cut the person off. And I have that feedback from my husband a lot, that I don't let him finish the sentence and so on. But today I found enjoyable. I felt like I could have gone longer than 3 minutes. And I've gone home and asked him, because that's my goal, to really, I'm a lot of hands-on being an occupational therapist in the NICU, so somehow I could do the disconnect between work and home. But I'm really trying with my friends and family to take a moment. It may not be that long, but at least being conscious. And he's giving me feedback that I don't cut him off as much, you know, so I'm loving it now.
Wow, great. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so great. You had that self-awareness. So, thank you. Yeah, Sylvia. You have the last comment, and then we'll need to wrap up because it's 12:30 or 1:30.
Okay, so I always learn so many things when I come to your classes. These are really great. But one of the things that I want to take home today is a 3 breaths micro practice. So I really want to try to do that before I walk into patient's room or with a family member there, or even with, you know, our babies. We need to learn to know to just take some deep breaths, look at them before we go in and start doing our cares. So I'm going to take that home and do that more.
Thank you. All right, so the last slide. Next slide, last slide, is the takeaways. So can you hit it again, Ann? The first thing is that you have to decide, do you want to spend 50% of your time on autopilot? If you do, then you don't need to do any of this stuff. Right? Next bullet. But if you don't, then consider some practice. I only gave you 2 examples today. If those don't really resonate with you, you can find something else, like yoga, like walking. Somebody else mentioned something to me earlier that they do. What was that? Some other practice. But it doesn't have to be these specific things, but just find something where you can be more mindful and try it out. You know, give it a chance. You know, for 1 day, for 1 week, for 1 month. Because these things can change your life. Can change your professional life, can change your personal life. Thank you very much.